afternoon. I think it's almost afternoon, just a couple minutes, everyone. Bienvenidos to San Antonio. Thank you for joining us here. This is always such a pleasure for us to host. Thank you, Jesse, for your introduction. Thank you to the entire NADBANK team for bringing us together for this year's summit. It was certainly a highlight just to meet just shortly ago, actually, meeting the new ambassador, Ambassador Lassetti. And it was great to talk about our mutual perspectives on something as important as trade, but also the unique role that San Antonio plays in the U.S.-Mexico partnership. Thank you as well, Dr. Carstens, for your very illuminating remarks. As somebody who grew up, frankly, in national security, the importance of understanding infrastructure investments in the context of those who may have different worldviews, frankly, than we do about national security is really, really important, so I appreciate his comments to that effect. Ambassador Gutierrez, former Managing Director of Calixto Mateos, Presidio County Judge Jose Portillo, Mayor Johnson of El Paso, my fellow mayor, and of course Mayor Hector Ortiz. Primo? Is that Primo? That was a joke. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Mayor Jorge Maldonado Nogales, and then Mayor Olga Maldonado of La Feria. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to the good discussion over lunch. To John Beckham, Alejandro Olivo, Salvador Lopez, and the entire NADBANK management team, thank you for your leadership and for continuing to make San Antonio the home of an institution that has become such an important part of the U.S.-Mexico relationship. San Antonio has been home to NADBANK since its creation over 30 years ago, and we are proud of the role that our city plays in this important mission. This relationship makes sense here because San Antonio has always understood the connection between the U.S. and Mexico and is deeper than geography. It's reflected, of course, in our history, our culture, our economy, our families, and in the way businesses and communities throughout this region depend on one another. That is also why the theme of this year's summit, strengthening binational cooperation to deliver the infrastructure of tomorrow, feels particularly relevant here in San Antonio. The infrastructure decisions being discussed in this room affect more than roads and water systems or energy projects. They influence whether communities can continue to grow, whether businesses can invest with confidence, and whether families can count on reliable services, and whether our region is prepared for the demands that will come with the next several decades of economic development. But of course, as Dr. Carstens just mentioned, we've got to be thinking in the same way that some of our competitors do, which is certainly 100 years. NADBANK has spent more than 3 decades working at that intersection, and it is also unique. It's the only development bank backed by the U.S. that finances projects here at home, and its workforce reflects the binational nature of its mission, with half of her employees coming from Mexico. From its headquarters here in San Antonio, NADBANK has financed 333 projects worth $4.2 billion in bank investment that helps leverage more than $12 billion in total investment throughout the border region. And those figures tell us something important about what partnership can accomplish when it moves beyond conversation and into implementation. Financing becomes water infrastructure, energy projects, environmental improvements, and investments that allows communities on both sides of the border to prepare for future growth. San Antonio is proud to be the headquarters of that work, and our economic development department is proud to sponsor this summit because we want to continue supporting NADBANK's growth and success in our community. My thanks to Sherry and the team for helping make this possible. San Antonio itself is experiencing the kind of opportunities and pressures that make this conversation so important. We're now the 6th largest city in the United States with an economy that continues to expand across aerospace, bioscience, healthcare, information technology, green technologies, and of course, other industries. We're also proudly known as Military City USA, with the country's largest populations of active duty service members and veterans, along with missions in military medicine, cybersecurity, pilot training, and basic training. To ensure that we are fully leveraging the talent in our community, earlier this year I established the Economic Security Advisory Group. As many of you all know, many of the technologies that we rely on for our economic security also dovetail nicely into the technologies that we need for our national security. So I set up this group that is going to focus on several key areas for which San Antonio has natural advantages. So AI, quantum technology, both in the computing, the communications, as well as in the sensing. Biotechnology, one of our main industries in our community is bioscience, of course, informed by the leading role that we play in defense health. And then, of course, space manufacturing. We have the second largest cyber presence outside of Washington, D.C. And if you're familiar with that industry, you know that there is no cybersecurity without the technology that enables that from space. So if you can build a Tundra, you can build a little widget that's going to go into space and make sure that those rockets and that infrastructure is what it is. I say all that because as we are thinking about the infrastructure that we need here in the community, that is certainly informed by the ways in which we are going to capture that business, bring that here to San Antonio, and enable an even stronger economy in those areas. As our city continues to grow, we have had to think carefully about the infrastructure necessary to sustain that growth. Reliable energy, secure water supplies, clean air, resilient neighborhoods, and well-planned infrastructure are increasingly a part of the same economic conversation because businesses and families need confidence that the system supporting a growing city can help pace with demand. Earlier this year, I hosted a delegation from Taiwan as we are actively looking to make sure that the roughly $200 billion that they have committed to investing in the U.S. and another $50 billion just on defense, that they are considering San Antonio. And of course, if they are considering San Antonio, they're going to be considering some of the infrastructure that you all, I know, have already envisioned or are thinking about investing in. And one of the things that we obviously spoke about is not only the infrastructure, San Antonio being at the critical intersection of I-10 and 35 physically, but also the criticality of the infrastructure that they are most focused on, which is the talent pipeline. So we look forward to investing not only in the physical infrastructure, but the workforce talent that enables all of this. So that is the approach guiding the work of our San Antonio Department of Resilience and Sustainability through SA Climate Ready, energy management, sustainable infrastructure, and community resilience programs. We're working to address climate and infrastructure risks while also protecting affordability, public health, economic opportunity, and our ability to accommodate future growth. We're in the process actually now of updating that strategy through SA Climate Ready 2035 with a stronger focus on implementation, measurable results, and identifying the investments necessary to bring successful strategies to bear and at scale. This couldn't be more important when we unfortunately look at some of the steps being taken at the federal level that are frankly negating basic science and making it more difficult for our young kids to grow up healthy. It's really important as we consider these infrastructure investments that we have public health at the core of that. Energy efficiency is one example of how that work can produce environmental and economic benefits. San Antonio established the first municipal energy efficiency fund in Texas, and since 2013, that fund has supported 439 projects and generated approximately $1.2 million in savings for the city. We're also making a $30 million investment in municipal solar across more than 50 of our city facilities, which is expected to save approximately $2 million a year once fully implemented, while supplying roughly 11% of our municipal electricity needs. Those investments matter because energy efficiency certainly reduces operating costs, but also again goes a long way in helping to address some of the public health challenges that we foresee. We have a strategic advantage in the fact that we own the largest municipally owned energy utility in the country, as you know, CPS, which is critical not only to meet the growing needs of our residents, but also the businesses that we're looking to capture. SOLS, of course, is an important strategic advantage as we are addressing our water needs. San Antonio's experience with water provides a really strong example. In 2025, our community reached a record low, 111 gallons of water used per person, even as San Antonio continues to grow. So through SAWS, our San Antonio water system, decades of conservation, efficiency, reuse, and diversification of our water supply have allowed us to support population and economic growth without water demand increasing at that same rate. So I really appreciate Robert Puente's leadership on that. And we're applying that same long-term thinking to extreme heat and community resilience. Some parts of San Antonio, unfortunately, experience significantly higher temperatures because of pavement, buildings, limited shade, and other conditions. And through our Heat Resilience Playbook, Cool Neighborhoods Initiative, trees reflective roofs and pavement, home improvements, and 6 resilience hubs across the city, we are investing in ways that can reduce risks before severe weather becomes a much more expensive emergency. Our responsibility becomes even more important as Texas competes for new industries and new investment. Artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, and other emerging sectors offer significant economic opportunities, but they can also place substantial demands on our utility infrastructure. This is an important piece of why our work with NADBANK is so important. As cities develop strong programs, utilities can prove that conservation and efficiency work and communities can identify where investment is needed most. But moving successful approaches to infrastructure scale requires capital, technical expertise, cooperation, and institutions capable of bringing those pieces together. I will say, we are in the midst of developing our legislative agenda for the state, and I was recently at an infrastructure panel alongside several other mayors, Mayor of Austin, Mayor of Plano, and then the Mayor of McAllen. And we had a discussion about what are some of the most important partnerships when it comes to infrastructure needs. And certainly, institutions like NADBANK are parts of that. But because this is such a unique audience, I will say, a key partner for us also has to be the state. As we're thinking about our ability to finance these projects, that relies on our ability to raise money to do that. I say that because, sometimes these things are thought of kind of piecemeal, like what's the project? Okay, well, what's the resources? What are the resources that we have to actually fund those things? So I would, as you are having your conversations, not only here, but also in your respective venues, thinking about the critical way in which state leadership can either help or hinder the exact infrastructure developments that you all are talking about that are critical for the state. For 32 years, NADBANK has helped turn our critical binational relationship into investments that communities can see, and San Antonio is proud that work again is headquartered here, and we look forward to continuing to be a good partner in the bank's growth and in the broader effort to strengthen the economic and environmental infrastructure connecting our two countries. The infrastructure that you work on and you work to identify is so critical, as I mentioned, and that's part of that Taiwanese trip that we hosted a delegation recently on the tail of a trip I led earlier this year. And they are also closely monitoring the USMCA deal and what happens there. Again, they're looking to invest billions of dollars, but no one's gonna do that if you only have certainty for 12 months or for 18 months. And so on the heels of that trip, I led a delegation to Washington, D.C. that spoke again about USMCA is much more than just an agreement between 3 countries. It speaks to the certainty and the stability that this foreign investment, which we so desperately need right now, all of those things just unfortunately halt or pause or frankly give a second question about whether now is the time to invest. So while we're saying, hey, we're ready for you, come to our community, we've got these advantages, we've got the pipeline, unfortunately these signals at the federal level are showing that this is not the time to invest. So this is a message I think all of us would benefit from carrying and shaping both at the federal level and certainly with other stakeholders that can be helpful. And I can't think of a more important voice to help carry that message than NADBANK. So thank you for taking time to be here. I look forward to engaging with each of you, and thank you for all that NADBANK does to strengthen San Antonio and the U.S.-Mexico partnership.